If you open this video, welcome. And I want to say this calmly, without exaggeration, without drama. You are a chosen person. That doesn't mean you are better than others. It doesn't mean your life has been easier. It simply means that while many people run from themselves, while many people numb their pain, while many people avoid silence, you stopped and you came here. So now, stop. Don't leave. This video is not here to fix you. It's not here to push you. It's not here to tell you what to do with your life. This video is here to stay with you. If you are still watching right now, comment 77 and say your prayer. Not loudly, not for anyone else, just honestly. For peace, for clarity, for relief from money pressure, for loneliness to ease, for direction to return. Comment 77 and say your prayer. We're here. Most people remember Jesus surrounded by crowds, people listening, people following, people expecting answers. But today, we begin somewhere else, with the moments when he was alone. Because the heaviest loneliness is not when no one is around, it is when no one truly stays. There were moments when Jesus was misunderstood, moments when even those closest to him could not carry what he carried. A loneliness that sounds like this: I am here, but no one sees what is happening inside me. Chosen person, if that sentence feels familiar, you are not imagining it. You speak, but you are not fully understood. You explain, but you are minimized. You say you are tired, and you hear, everyone is tired. So you go quiet, so you don't become a burden. That kind of loneliness doesn't scream. It drains you slowly. One clear truth from Jesus' life is this: not everyone stays. People admire you until you struggle. People walk with you until the road gets heavy. People need you until you need something back. And when people leave, many turn inward and ask, what is wrong with me? But being left does not mean you are broken. Sometimes people simply cannot carry depth, and deep people often walk alone. Loneliness changes the body. It tightens the chest. It keeps the mind alert. It makes rest feel shallow. After a while, questions appear. Why am I stuck? Why can't I move forward? Why does everything feel heavy? The answer is not laziness. The answer is not weakness. The answer is that you have been alone for too long. Jesus was broken at times, but he did not harden. He was misunderstood, but he did not close his heart. He was left, but he did not lose compassion. Staying open in a hard world is exhausting, and you stayed open for a long time. That is why you are tired. That is why you feel empty sometimes. This is not a flaw. This is the cost of staying human. Pause for a moment. Notice your shoulders. Notice your breath. Right now, there is no immediate danger. If you are still here, comment 77 and say your prayer. We're here. Stop. Don't leave. Money stress doesn't just empty a wallet. It slowly empties a person. Not all at once, not loudly, but quietly, day by day. Chosen person, maybe you know this feeling. You sit somewhere and calculate before you relax. You receive an invitation and feel pressure before excitement. You want something simple, but hesitation shows up first. And over time, a dangerous thought forms. Maybe I'm worth less now. Jesus lived in a time where poverty wasn't just difficult, it was humiliating. If you had no money, people assumed something was wrong with you, that you failed, that you made bad choices, that you were being punished. And Jesus stood against that belief without shouting. He didn't give speeches about money. He didn't shame the wealthy either. He did something quieter. He stood next to the people who felt invisible because they had nothing. Chosen person, that matters, because the world respects results. The world celebrates success. The world listens to confidence. But the moment someone falls behind, the world looks away. Jesus didn't. He looked directly at those people, the ashamed, the tired, the ones avoiding eye contact. Money stress hurts deeply because it attaches itself to identity. It doesn't just say, you're broke. It says, you failed. It says, you're behind. It says, you don't belong here anymore. And when that voice repeats long enough, a person starts shrinking. You talk less. You ask for less. You expect less. Not because you want to, but because shame makes you small. Chosen person, this is important. Shame is heavier than debt. Debt can be paid. Shame lingers. Jesus never treated poverty as a moral flaw. He never looked at someone struggling and thought, they deserve this. Instead, he removed the shame first. Because without shame, a person can breathe again. Maybe right now, you feel embarrassed about your situation. Maybe you haven't told anyone how tight things are. Maybe you smile in public and worry in private. That doesn't make you weak. That makes you human under pressure. Jesus understood pressure. Not financial pressure the way we experience it today, but the pressure of being misunderstood, judged, and reduced to a single label. Chosen person, your worth did not disappear because your bank balance changed. Your value was never stored in numbers. Your value is in the fact that you still feel, that you still care, that you still question who you are becoming. If you were truly empty, you wouldn't be here listening. You wouldn't be searching. So if money stress has made you doubt yourself, pause for a moment. Not to solve anything, not to plan, just to breathe. Right now, you don't need to prove your worth. You don't need to justify your existence. You don't need to explain how you got here. If you're still here, comment 77 and say your prayer. Quietly, honestly, for relief, for stability, for dignity to return. Comment 77 and say your prayer. We're here. Stop. Don't leave. There is a kind of pain that doesn't panic. It doesn't scream. It doesn't even look dramatic from the outside. It sounds like this. I don't know what I'm doing with my life anymore. Chosen person, this sentence carries weight. Not because you gave up, not because you're incapable, but because somewhere along the way, your direction faded. You still wake up. You still move through the day. You still do what needs to be done. But inside, there's a quiet emptiness, a sense that you're moving, but not toward anything. Jesus spent much of his time with people like this. Not people with clear plans, not people with everything figured out, but people who were confused, people who felt late, people who felt disconnected from who they used to be. The world looked at them and said, they're lost. They missed their chance. They took the wrong path. Jesus never treated being lost as failure. He treated it as a moment. Because when someone is lost, they are not broken. They are open, chosen person. Maybe you feel behind right now. You look around and see others moving forward. starting families, building careers, posting achievements, and you're standing still, trying to understand how your life became this unclear. That comparison hurts because it makes you question yourself. How did I fall this far behind? Why didn't I see this coming? Why can't I just choose something and stick to it? But being lost doesn't mean you wasted your life. It often means the old direction no longer fits. And letting go of an old identity is painful. You invested time, energy, hope. Walking away from that feels like failure. Jesus never framed starting over as shame. He framed it as returning to what's real, returning to what's alive, returning to what still matters. Chosen person, starting over, does not erase your past. It uses it. Every wrong turn taught you something. Every delay shaped you. Every disappointment added depth. You are not empty. You are layered. And layered people take longer to find simple paths. There is another fear that comes with being lost. Starting again. Because starting again feels like admitting defeat. It feels like saying, all of this was for nothing. But nothing you lived through was nothing. Survival itself takes strength, money stress, loneliness, pressure, expectation. These things push the mind into survival mode. In survival mode, you don't dream, you don't plan, you just get through the day. Jesus understood this. That's why he didn't demand clarity from confused people. He offered presence. He stayed. Chosen person, if you don't recognize yourself anymore, that doesn't mean you disappeared. It means you adapted to survive. And adaptation can make you forget who you are. For a moment, stop blaming yourself. You don't need to solve your life tonight. You don't need answers. You don't need a map. You just need to stop turning confusion into self-hatred. If you're still here, comment 77 and say your prayer for direction, for clarity, for the strength to take the next small step. Comment 77 and say your prayer. We're here. Stop. Don't leave. There is a kind of pain that doesn't ask for help. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't collapse loudly. It keeps functioning. Chosen person, this is silent pain. It's the pain of saying, I'm fine, when something inside you is slowly shutting down. You still show up. You still answer messages. You still handle responsibilities. But emotionally, you've gone quiet. Not because you don't care, but because caring started to hurt too much. Jesus often stood beside people like this. Not the loud ones, not the dramatic ones, but the ones who carried everything internally. People who learned early that showing pain didn't change anything. People who learned that being strong meant staying silent. Chosen person, maybe you learned this too. You stopped explaining yourself. You stopped expecting understanding. You stopped asking for support, not out of pride, out of exhaustion. Silent pain slowly numbs a person. You don't feel intense sadness. You don't feel deep joy either. Life becomes flat. Days blur together. Moments pass without landing. And because nothing feels extreme, you start telling yourself, I should be grateful. I shouldn't complain. It's not that bad. But pain doesn't disappear because you minimize it. It just goes underground. Jesus never ignored silent suffering. He noticed what others overlooked. The person sitting quietly, the one avoiding eye contact, the one who didn't ask for anything. He understood that the strongest people often carry the heaviest internal weight. Chosen person, emotional shutdown is not weakness, it's a response. When pressure stays high for too long, the nervous system protects itself by going numb. This is not failure, this is survival. But survival is not meant to be permanent. And here's something important. You don't heal by forcing yourself to feel again. You heal by feeling safe enough to slowly open. Right now, you don't need to explain your pain. You don't need to justify it. You don't need to prove that it's real. If you're still here, comment 77 and say your prayer. Not to fix anything, just to be honest, for softness to return, for feeling to come back gently, for safety inside your own body. Comment 77 and say your prayer. We're here. Stop. Don't leave. There comes a point where pressure doesn't feel like pressure anymore. It feels like normal. Chosen person, this is where burnout hides. Not in collapse, not in panic, but in constant endurance. You wake up already tired. You move through the day on autopilot. You get things done, but nothing feels satisfying. You tell yourself, this is just life. This is how it is now. I'll rest later. Jesus lived among people who carried heavy loads, not just physical labor, but emotional weight, responsibility, expectation, fear of falling behind. He didn't praise exhaustion. He didn't glorify sacrifice that destroyed a person. He noticed the ones who were worn down. Chosen person. Modern life quietly trains people to burn out. Money pressure, comparison, constant availability, the feeling that you're never doing enough. Even rest becomes stressful. You scroll, you distract yourself, but your body never truly relaxes. Burnout isn't laziness. Burnout is what happens when you've been strong for too long without relief. And when burnout sets in, people start turning against themselves. Why can't I handle this? Other people do more than me. I should be stronger. But Jesus never measured worth by endurance. He invited tired people to pause, not to quit life, but to rest inside it. Chosen person, you don't need to earn rest. Rest is not a reward for productivity. Rest is a requirement for being human. Pressure narrows your world. It makes everything feel urgent. It makes everything feel heavy. That's why burnout often comes with numbness. Your system is trying to protect you. But protection can become a prison if it lasts too long. Right now, you don't need a breakthrough. You don't need a plan. You need permission to not push. If you're still here, comment 77 and say your prayer for relief, for rest without guilt, for space to breathe again. Comment 77 and say your prayer. We're here. Stop. Don't leave. There is a moment that comes quietly after pressure, after burnout, after silence. It's the moment when a person realizes they've been harsh with themselves for a long time. Chosen person, this is where self-forgiveness begins. Not with big declarations, not with sudden confidence, but with a soft question. What if I wasn't failing? What if I was surviving? Jesus spoke often to people who carried regret, people who believed they ruined their chance, missed their moment, went too far to come back. The world tells people like that, it's too late. You should have known better. You don't get another start. Jesus never spoke that way. He didn't rush forgiveness. He didn't demand self-hatred as proof of growth. He allowed people to return, without humiliation. Chosen person, you don't rebuild your life by punishing yourself. You rebuild by releasing the weight you were never meant to carry forever. Many people stay stuck, not because they don't know what to do, but because they haven't forgiven themselves for how they got here. They replay decisions, they relive mistakes, they argue with the past. But the past doesn't answer back. It just exhausts you. Jesus never asked people to erase their past. He asked them to stop living inside it. Forgiveness is not saying, "What happened was okay." Forgiveness is saying, "I don't need to keep bleeding from this." Chosen person, you did the best you could with what you knew and what you had. You made choices under pressure, under fear, under uncertainty. That doesn't make you broken. That makes you human. Rebuilding doesn't happen all at once. It happens in small, quiet shifts. Speaking to yourself with less cruelty, allowing rest without guilt, letting go of timelines that no longer fit. Jesus understood that transformation doesn't come from force, it comes from safety. If you're still here, comment 77 and say your prayer for forgiveness, for release, for the courage to start gently. Comment 77 and say your prayer. We're here. Stop. Don't leave. There is a quiet truth that comes at the end of long endurance. Not relief, not celebration, but understanding. Chosen person, you are not broken. You were pressured. You were stretched. You were asked to carry more than most people ever see. And you carried it silently. The world often mistakes survival for weakness, but survival takes strength. Jesus never looked at a worn-down person and said, "You failed." He saw what others missed. He saw effort where others saw delay. He saw pain where others saw distance. He saw humanity where others saw flaws. Chosen person, if you feel behind, it doesn't mean you're late. It means your path required more depth. Some lives move fast and stay shallow. Others move slowly and become strong. You don't need to rush what's rebuilding. You don't need to explain your pace. You don't need to justify your healing. Right now, your only job is to stay. Stay with yourself. Stay present. Stay open just enough. Jesus didn't force people into new lives. He invited them into safety first. And safety changes everything. Safety lets the body relax. Safety lets the mind soften. Safety lets hope return, naturally. Chosen person, this video wasn't meant to fix your life. It was meant to remind you that you don't have to abandon yourself just because life became heavy. If you're still here, comment 77 and say your prayer. Not because something magical happens, but because choosing to speak hope, even quietly, changes something inside. For peace, for steadiness, for the strength to keep going. Comment 77 and say your prayer. We're here. Stop. You don't need to leave. This isn't the end. If this feeling feels familiar, the full video is on the channel.